Alright, cut the lights, cut the lights. Alright, thanks, Jamie. So, what did you think about the Super Bowl?
Oh, it was a great deal more exciting than I anticipated it to be.
One of the most exciting Super Bowls in the past couple of years, for sure.
Yes.
The old Frankie Bowl.
Frankie Bowl, yes.
He was...
Thank you very much.
Nice enough to take the torch from my old man.
Yeah.
Take the...
Is that what it was?
Yeah, my dad didn't want to have the party anymore. Didn't want to have all the people in his apartment, so...
Yeah.
Frankie took it upon himself to let everyone come hang out there. It was a good crowd. There wasn't a chair to spare.
There wasn't.
Couldn't even spare a chair.
Not even one?
Not even one. No, I'm just joking. He actually did get me one. There was at one point, and I didn't even mind it. I was standing, just chilling. He's like, "I'll get you a chair." Like he was on the Hostess with the Mostess for sure. Great food.
Excellent food.
Phyllis had a good time.
Yeah, I brought a big bottle of Pepsi.
Yeah.
Some ring dings.
Some ring dings. Yeah, Phyllis had a great time. Her and Troy did a little photo shoot, which you can see on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Cousin Nathan was there.
Yeah, it was great to see him.
Old boy Stu.
Yep.
Got some zingers.
Yep.
He's got some wit, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
Yeah. You have a funniest moment of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was when Stu threw out his butt into the kindling.
That was good.
And when I pointed it out, it was
like, well, it's out. Yeah. But enough about 2023. In 2001, the Super Bowl was...
Triple X?
No, not the Triple X.
No, that was earlier, probably 99.
But in 2023, Rihanna was the halftime show.
Yeah.
Kind of lackluster.
I remember that.
In 2001, the halftime show was NSYNC, Aerosmith, and Britney Spears.
Oh, gee.
And you know who sang...
Pop, rock, and fusion.
Who sang the national anthem?
Jeremy Piven.
Brian, Kevin, AJ, Howie, and Nick.
The Backstreet Boys were out there too?
Isn't it weird that Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were both at the same Super Bowl?
Yeah. Pepsi and Coke being sold in the same dang restaurant.
Yeah. Also that night, Baltimore Ravens put a whooping on the Giants.
Oh.
To win the the Stanley Cup there. No, to win the Super Bowl.
The Ravens, I've seen people
the
wearing
Lombardi
Ravens.
Trophy is what I was going for. What were you saying about the Ravens?
I've seen people rocking Ravens gear.
Yeah, a couple of Ravens fans.
Did they win?
They did win, yeah.
They've
won since though.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, with Flacco. They would have been in the 2010s, I'd say. I remember partying at. There's a picture of me wearing a Ravens hat actually.
Oh yeah.
In support of them at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, living up here, it doesn't really matter. You don't get beat up for wearing like the place you're in
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Where I went to Boston, and you can't buy any other hat.
Yeah.
So we're from Nova Scotia, where you can buy any hat from any team, or like even anywhere in Canada, you can buy any hat from any team. But when you go to Boston, it's Red Sox, Patriots, whatever, and the other one.
Yeah. My friend was wearing Pittsburgh stuff in Boston during a hockey game.
Yeah, Boston Bruins is what I meant to say.
Yeah. And like
Did they tell him to take his hat off?
He was in great jeopardy. Yeah. He was wearing it in the wrong place at the wrong time for sure. And they were yelling like pussies. Like, I was like, did they edit this out of the broadcast or you just hear this in the back of games?
That's funny. Another Seinfeld reference there.
Yeah. There probably wasn't enough in the episode.
Speaking of the Stanley Cup, the winners of the Stanley Cup in 2001 was Colorado Avalanche. And
I seem to remember that.
They were a huge team. Everyone was a Colorado fan when Patrick Waugh was there. And I remember playing them in Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey for N64.
Yeah,
around that time.
If you like skiing and hockey, that was your team.
In the NBA, the Lakers won the championship. This is the third time in a row with Shaq and Kobe, the Dream Team.
That sounds real nice.
And it's the last nice. And it was the last championship that Shaq and Kobe won together.
Oh.
They both won.
Because Shaq
separately.
retired.
Yeah. And I don't think that's the game where I punched Stacy Miller's brother.
Statute of limitations pass on all this stuff.
Also,
this was in defense.
Also in 2001,
go on,
was Lance Armstrong winning the Tour de France.
Oh, ill-gotten gains.
It was taken away from him 10 years later.
A decade to the day, I heard.
Arizona Diamondbacks, I guess, won the World Series. But
that a baseball team?
Yeah, to shadow that,
Diamondbacks.
Barry Bonds, which
corked bat. Is this the year the corked bat?
He got the most. He set the record for the most home runs
with a corked bat
in 2001. Maybe a cork bat.
Did you see any videos of people getting caught with corked bats?
No. Just wiffle ball. They're playing wiffle ball out there. Lennox Lewis.
It's raining. Yeah. So the game's gonna be canceled.
A year before, Lennox Lewis knocked out Mike Tyson. Lennox Lewis actually got knocked out himself by Hasim Rahman.
For the title?
It was knockout of the year. That's all I know.
Oh, I'm going to go back and watch it.
Somewhat early in the UFC still, in 2001. Randy Couture defended his championship successfully twice. Tito Ortiz.
Oh, he was big back then. Yeah.
Big draw.
Big draw for sure. He was one of the biggest names in all of UFC then.
Defended his light heavyweight title 3 times.
Sure Dog. I remember my buddies being on Sure Dog.
Were you a Matt Hughes guy? You either loved him or you hated him.
No, there's a gray area.
Yeah?
Yeah, because back then you would just see people, like it was such a huge roster. That
I found him kind of plain.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I didn't like the wrestlers too much.
No. If they're spending all the time hugging, I mean, I like the grappling more now, especially in the Volkanovski and Islam fight there the other day.
Yeah. Watching
Volkanovski hang in there.
Yeah.
So warming up to it, but it's taken me 20 years, you're right.
Yeah. And in 2001, Matt Hughes won the welterweight championship from Carlos Newton. And in a very peculiar way, if you remember.
Wrist?
It was a knockout, but it wasn't a punch. It wasn't a kick. It was knockout by slam.
Oh, I have
Almost
seen.
almost a power bomb, perhaps.
Yeah, that was one of the most unusual things. You're absolutely right with that, man.
And that brings us here. 2001. WrestleMania 17. What they say is the greatest WrestleMania of all time.
Yep. Try as I might, I can't disagree.
Let's hear some Limp Bizkit.
Get rolling. We fizzle out, but fizzle on!
Yeah. Keeping the 7 tradition going. Because it's the future, baby.
Got that woo-wop kick.
Hit it with a little bing, 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 bing.
Number 9, eh?
Yeah, number 9.
Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
Wrestlemania. Eckseven.
Excellent.
What do you think about that?
It's an odd choice that we didn't watch WrestleMania 9, but yeah, I remember WrestleMania 7. WrestleMania 17. And a lot of people say that WrestleMania 17 was the final day of the Attitude Era, which like I came in at the end of, and you probably came in at the beginning of, and that was definitely the height of wrestling. And even though N.W.O was a huge part of the Attitude Era too, you can't leave WCW out.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for N.W.O, there would be no DX. That's kind of where they got the idea, and that's where WCW was actually ahead of the time, because they were the ones that said fuck the gimmicks, and they were all just like themselves up to 11, you know what I mean? And then WWF kind of had to follow suit and make it more realistic, and that's when DX came in and all that kind of stuff, and the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah. Which was crazy.
Yeah.
It was hard to divide.
And this is the end of the Monday Night Wars because Vince McMahon just bought WCW before this pay-per-view.
Right before this one.
Yeah. And the storyline that we'll get to later is that Shane McMahon actually bought it from under him.
Yeah. So I was way out on this.
Yeah.
By like a year or two, maybe. Haven't quite narrowed down the date yet. But you were still in during this?
Oh, yeah. This is like, I got into wrestling in like the N.W.O era. Like I actually, when I first started watching wrestling, it was WCW, like Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I'd be watching it.
Yeah. Nitro? No. What was Wednesday night? Was it
Nitro? Because there was, Monday Night Nitro. Mm-hmm. So it would have been, I don't know. I was young. I just remember it was Wednesdays because I'd be at the, at Buster's.
Wednesdays was the night you needed to be at a TV.
Yeah, and like Sting. Like, I never saw Sting with the gold hair.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, no Sting in eckseven.
Yeah. Well, he was actually the last of the WCW people to come over. Because, after this became the whole invasion storyline, a lot of people, there's a lot of mixed reviews about that. And say that was like the final nail in the coffin for the Attitude Era. But as I was getting into wrestling, like, I really enjoyed the invasion angle. I thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
But like, they really didn't bring the superstars of WCW in. Mm-hmm. They brought Booker T, who was a big guy, Harlem Heat.
Yeah.
But they like made a disgrace out of DDP. And DDP was the fucking man in WCW. Like, ready to rumble. Like, oh man, like the diamond cutter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bang! Like, I always liked DDP, so it was so weird that they gave him like a stalker angle. And
that was like kind of like a Stone Cold Stunner, the diamond cutter.
Yeah. But then they got N.W.O later on. That was like Vince McMahon's way of getting back control, is bringing back N.W.O. Yeah. And then Sting came like way later on, to the point I wasn't watching wrestling by the time Sting came to the WWF.
Do you ever see old Sting with the blonde hair?
Oh, I've seen him now, but I didn't watch him wrestle.
Yeah.
Like
Only
back in his
saw
Four
him as the
Horsemen
Crow.
days. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
then like the Red Crow.
Yeah. I liked Wolfpack.
Wolfpack was.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So you got to give WCW its credit, but that's not why we're here tonight.
So, when you first saw this one, were you like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen in my whole life"?
Yeah, definitely would have had this, and especially because my birthday was in March. Like that was kind of the thing and March is a shitty time of the year where like I would always get snow on my birthday.
Yeah.
So it was like you got to look for indoor stuff. So it'd always be around my birthday that Wrestlemania would come out, and me and buddies would all meet up and put like, if you did the math on a pay-per-view in the early 2001, it's relatively cheap. You're all paying like $7 each if you get enough people to watch it. This one, we did go to the theater a lot, which was fucking badass.
Yeah.
But this one we watched at home. I remember whose place it was at.
Yeah.
So.
This would have been a long theater experience.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I know before like the Dark Knight and the Die Hard marathons, like the longest thing I ever saw in the theater was probably like 3 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you kind of hyped it up with this. They say it's the best.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
I was like, nah, wrestling was absolute shit fire. And then,
but these are the heavy hitters. Like these are. You can't put Hulk Hogan or any of these guys at the from the golden era.
Yeah.
Like, can they really be in the Mount Rushmore of wrestling anymore?
Well, I just used to get so excited watching old tapes in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I just loved that time sink of like 3 hours of to kill that much time with such exciting content.
Yeah, it was the longest episode that we had to watch.
Yeah.
Because we haven't watched a 3-hour movie, but I think it was like closer to 4 hours.
It was, yeah.
And it was amazing how much actually went on.
Beyond like a shadow of the doubt, the best WrestleMania I've seen.
Yeah.
And I walked in
undoubtedly
as skeptical as any person who was out of wrestling at that time could possibly be.
And they had
that doesn't help that the last thing that I saw that was wrestling was from one of the new ones where we watched that in the cemetery and stuff.
Because
it was all cinematic and weird.
And that was, I think, during COVID, so they couldn't have audience, so they started doing that weird. Oh man, it was brutal.
I guess you got to respect the hustle. You got to do something, but
it was so cheesy. It looked like a soap opera.
It was like if a cheesy movie fight just kept going on.
Yeah.
But it kept being very samey. But it would be 16, 18. I don't remember how long that clip was, but it was so long for the samiest thing.
And it was just I don't think we can watch this whole thing.
No.
So there actually
I couldn't believe that I couldn't barely stomach it. It was almost like ASMR or something after a while.
Because it is true that we really did debate about what WrestleMania we're gonna watch.
Yeah.
Because we knew that we wanted to do a wrestling episode at least. That will continue in the form of having our buddy Kevin Jollymore on here in the future.
Yeah.
But I think I sold you on this WrestleMania.
Yeah. I was so nervous before we watched it that it was gonna suck so bad, and that I wouldn't want to even get all the way through it. That it would be a slog, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was leaning towards watching. We talked about watching some really old ones,
Yeah.
like Super WWF.
Yeah.
I know that's like a bad word.
Old mankind.
Like they probably get fined if they ever say WWF. You're gonna pay like $100,000.
Get the F
At least
out.
80. Get the F out. Yeah, you're telling me a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, keep going.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that. Like I think we hit the nail on the head. Like I can't imagine any other that I would have preferred the watch over this. And I'm super excited to talk about some of these fights here.
Yeah, man. I was surprised that every fight, or every match, there was a discussion about every single person on that card.
Yeah.
Like, we'll start it off from the top, but like it was amazing just the conversation we'd be having during the match of not just like the match itself, but these characters. Like everyone was like almost iconic in their own way when it comes to this era of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone here was kind of needed in some form or fashion, even if it's not the big names. But you need those jobbers. You know what I mean? You need those big men that can, we'll get into that.
3 hours or whatever every week is a huge one to fill out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk for a second just about how it starts up.
Yeah.
A cinematic part of it.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they really used that to good effect. Mm-hmm. They had the ring girls or something all dressed in red, being like witchy.
Limp Bizkit, My Way was the theme. Mm-hmm. It kind of shows like, that was the generation too, you know what I mean? That was Generation X of music.
Yeah.
In the sense that like Limp Bizkit, the transitional, like Fred Durst might have took a couple like of the sacrificial spears just to be the transition from rap becoming the new rock and roll. They needed these in between bands.
Yeah.
Because at that point there was a lot of people rapping on rock. Yeah. Kid Rock and stuff like that.
Yeah. 99. Yeah. Korn, all that stuff, new metal, all those. Yeah, Limp Bizkit was huge, and I could go on a lot talking about that.
Rage Against the Machines.
Yeah,
love them.
No, definitely, they were like the best.
Yeah,
because they're still cool. You can still say you listen to Rage Against the Machines.
No, yeah, that's true. There's not that many bands that they're like.
It's hard to be like, although some people have said that the new Limp Bizkit album, like, Dad
sucks.
No, that it's not
good.
Bad. Yeah.
I would love to listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm scared too though. But all right, so keep painting that picture.
Yeah, so cinematic, we got all the signs going on. Like, it's a real sign heavy event.
I got a list of the best signs that I can.
Oh yes, this is gonna be exciting. There's a lot of good signs.
Yeah.
And it jumps into a match pretty much straight away with a few familiar faces to me. Like, it was really fun looking at William Regal.
So that's what's funny is that I know him as William Regal because I was introduced to him around this time in the WWF.
Yeah.
But you remember him from WCW, where he was Steven Regal. I think that's his real name, is Steven Regal.
Yeah.
I remember him and you could see it from kind of the promo for the match that he's the general manager, commissioner, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Really playing up the proper British, gentleman kind of stuff, and Y2J's the degenerate, and he's pissing in his tea and stuff like that, and
the general manager.
What was he doing? That Shawn Michaels. I was just telling you that. Oh, Chris Jericho dresses up as Doink and attacks
Oh
William
yeah.
Regal, and that's when Shawn Michaels was like, "You're doing the doink thing," and then passed out in Vince McMahon's office, and then got fired. Um,
Yeah, I have like a brain
but
fart every time I think of William Regal
yeah,
or Steven
yeah,
Regal.
yeah.
But it is so hilarious, like such a hateable kind of like
Mm.
James Bond
Yeah,
villainy. It's like so funny to like imagine what he's like in his spare time. And,
yeah. But he's a wild man, I guess. Like behind the scenes.
I'm not.
Yeah, like one of the guys who would actually throw down, and like I know there's some story about that he used to party a lot with someone, and then he was the guy that cleaned himself up and couldn't hang with the other guys.
Oh yeah.
It was probably in the Dark Side of the Ring or something like that.
Yeah, I imagine it was.
But he was the first guy that actually shot on Goldberg, because Goldberg was on that crazy streak in WCW, and Steven Regal was pissed off because Steven Regal's like a Dean Malenko, who we'll talk about later, like
Yeah.
old school wrestler, grappler kind of shit.
Dean Malenko, I think, showed up first.
Yeah, the Radicals, man. We got to talk. The Radicals is a thing, is a discussion in its own. But and Y2J is like New Japan.
Yeah.
And that's why all his moves are like used to be the Lion Tamer and the Lion Salt, and because he used to go to Japan and be known as the Lionheart or something like that.
Yeah.
And this was
That
I think now he calls it the Walls of Jericho, but it used to be the Lion Tamer for sure.
Yeah.
But a good match.
Well,
I thought both of them, like it was high momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, the technician or like
Wasn't any lulls.
The fundamental guy.
Yeah.
Like it was really funny, like trying to imagine, because you're like, oh, with this guy, what's his eccentric move gonna be? Like, is it gonna be a leg drop or something silly like that?
Yeah.
And just going through and just being like, oh yeah, like he's definitely like a submission guy.
Yeah. Grappler.
It was so funny.
I remember at one point he used to have brass knuckles on him at all times. I thought that he might have brought this in, but that must have been later on.
Mm-hmm. Like Israel Adesanya going through an airport.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it was a fan just handed it off to me. Just a little gift. I just threw it in the bag.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Not suspicious of them at all.
Not at all.
It's funny that actually prompted me to look up brass knuckles, and they sell them here, or they're illegal here if they're metal. But there's like a website that makes them out of like carbon fiber and plastic, but they're still like, it's illegal to misuse them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. At least if we need a prop, there's might be a pair you can get away with.
We can paint it brass.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just the funniest thing right off the bat, that he like always uses these brass, like cheats every time.
Yeah. And there's a couple people like, Eddie Guerrero, who we're going to talk about later. His whole thing was lying.
Is that a confidence problem? Like, God, I can't win on my own.
Yeah, no. But it's just, you got to have the bad guys.
I guess that's the heels.
Yeah,
of course.
if you make him a heel, it starts pushing Chris Jericho in a babyface position, because, and I guess we're not going to talk about Chris Jericho anymore. So this is a cool thing, is that like this was Chris Jericho's trajectory, because Triple H got injured after this WrestleMania. So, who else was there to take the spot? So during this invasion angle, Y2J, Chris Jericho, actually got pushed to be like one of the 5 that are going against this this invasion, WCW and ECW. So, and then he became the
recruited
first undisputed.
To the resistance.
Like he had both belts. At one point, he beat like The Rock and I think it was like he beat Stone Cold and Kurt Angle in 2 matches in one night, and had the 2 belts. And now
that's absolute nonsense. I can see why we stopped here.
Is in that AEW, they actually William Regal and Chris Jericho have a rivalry going on again.
Was this, do you think, during a rivalrous period in their career?
I don't know. I think it's just, they know how to work together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If they have a rivalry, kayfabe or whatever it's called, kayfabe.
You can't say that.
Kayfabe.
It's legal.
But they probably just work together well.
Yeah.
Next match. Or do you have anything more to say about that? Chris Jericho does get the win with the lion salt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a good way to start. Wouldn't have been my most anticipated fight of the evening. But no, it was an excellent way to start off a 25 fight event. I guess there's a place for them in there.
Yeah.
And I guess just that Jericho's gone on to find his road in so many different ways. Good on him, but I would put him right dead center in the middle of something.
Yeah, I never unfortunately heard anyone like my favorite wrestler is Chris Jericho. Yeah. I've never heard anyone say that.
Yeah.
And
no offense to him, but he also had that look. A lot of people had that long blonde hair and muscle. So he could have been a Christian or a tester.
But he was good on the mic. He was flamboyant, actually. He was worked well with the Attitude Era. He did some big things in WCW even, because he started out as a cruiserweight, because he's even Eddie Guerrero was a cruiserweight, because they'd always be flying around with Rey Mysterio and Psychosis and all this. So these guys didn't get a push, and WWF was all about
They're
big
too
men,
little.
Right? Yeah.
It's just wee lads. They can't be the world champion.
But they became it.
They could just get crushed by any of these other guys.
Big Show.
Yeah.
Big Show.
Triple H, I'm pretty sure, somehow got huge at some point. Yeah. Gigantic. You think old Lion Tamer's gonna do that?
Yeah. I think he break a leg that big.
Pedigree
is probably it's not a pretty move. Kind of looks weird.
It's like a DDT.
But if you actually think about it,
funny. Or not.
If you think about the theory of the pedigree, it is the most violent move, because every other move, DDT, pile driver, tombstone, or anything like that, you at least have the chance to protect yourself on the way down.
You think because it only happens from a foot high, you can. There's no.
But the pedigree holds your arms back. Yeah. There's no other move that holds your arms back as you get slammed in the face.
He just tucks you very gently into his crotch.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. It looks fucking deadly.
Yeah.
It's probably the only move that, as you're wrestling with friends, no one ever put anyone in a pedigree, because we were like, that looks like it fucking hurts. Christopher Reeves and Steven Seagal. That was a pretty good match. What was the match after that?
Well, before the next match, there was the whole
monologue.
The monologue, the Bradshaw monologue.
And I think this is when they were trying to, APA, the Acolyte Protection. Remember, APA was kind of spooky when they first came out. They were part of the Ministry of Darkness and stuff. They have the weird satanic marks on their chest and shit.
Mabel.
Mm-hmm.
Mabel had a good look as Viscera.
You're the one who said that he used to be a cowboy wrestler.
Yeah, Bradshaw.
And Farouk, Ron Simmons, actually was the first black man to ever have a heavyweight championship in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's got a big name for himself. He actually, almost should have done more in his later years because of what he did early on.
But
they were just those kind of dudes, so they wanted to be that character of sitting in the background, smoking cigars, playing poker. And there was a lot of funny little storylines and gimmicks that they would play back there.
Well,
This one was just straight monologue.
that scene just I thought was so funny right off the hop, because like when you're looking at it with a movie mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like making it for TV or whatever. Like the room is just decked with the funniest things, like the pallets.
Yeah, everything that Kane,
plywood.
Raven, and Big Show used later on, they just
And-
put in the background.
And they got all these crushed beers, like pretty well set up, good for camera.
Yeah.
Like each one, they're kind of like triangulated, like two crushed ones, and they're smoking these cigars.
Very like Good Friday movie set.
Yeah. But there's nothing in the ashtray. Like they haven't ashed in this.
The cigars
ashtray.
have just been lit.
But all these beers have been drank.
Yeah.
Like, how long have they been in there? Like, it's defying space and time in a way. And it looks like you've interrupted really a game of strip poker because Bradshaw's
Jackie's
in there,
there.
no shirt, and
And
Farouk
Jackie's
probably as well, except for his armbands.
there. Yeah. And this is when all the there was the puppies, as Jerry Lawler would say. So Jackie's there showing her stuff off too.
Oh, puppies, yeah.
So I don't know if we'll have to blank that out later.
Yeah.
But quite the monologue going into the match. And what's funny is because they were teamed up with Taz.
Mm-hmm.
But
Who didn't even want to be seen with
couldn't
them,
even-
it seemed to me.
Couldn't put him in the poker game. That was kind of odd.
I know, and he was like arrived like 15 feet ahead of them or 10.
Yeah. Or after, maybe.
I feel like he was walking in front of them, wouldn't
Taz
he?
came first.
I think he was just like walking ahead of them.
But then, who were they against? Right to Censor?
Yeah, another one.
So do you have the names in front of you? I want to get these right. I know Steven Richards was the leader of the Right to Censor, and which was a funny gimmick because, this is when Vince McMahon started getting hate on from the sensory boards, being like, hey, you got to start cleaning it up. So they started this gimmick of these guys trying to clean up wrestling.
Yeah.
And Steven Richards was in the original Flock in ECW. Like, he was the original working with Raven. And you know how much I love Raven, and we'll be talking about him later.
Oh, yeah.
But, Steven Richards done his time through ECW, WCW, WWF. So it was cool to see him as, like, a leader. And I actually thought it worked well. You got Val Venus, who is the porn star, and you got Good Father, who is the pimp. And you'd
Father.
pretty much convert them
I didn't even catch on that his name was the Good Father there. Kama?
Yeah, Kama.
The
Papa
Godfather. The Ho Train?
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw the Ho Train in real life one time.
He did the Ho Train in WrestleMania 17. Or he at least tried to hit it. Yeah, he tried to hit it.
And Bull Buchanan, is that Steven?
No.
Whoever name you just said?
Bull Buchanan. Okay, so maybe Steven Richards didn't even fight.
No, Bull Buchanan was the one in this fight.
And who?
Val Venus.
Oh, Val
Good
Venus
Father.
was in it, yeah.
Were the Right to Censor.
Yeah. Val Venus was actually, very athletic. The Good Father was actually, a fucking beast, man. He was huge. But, they just get stuck with these funny gimmicks.
Yeah. It's so funny how they got to do it every show.
Yeah.
Every part of their gimmick almost.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And
but I mean, it's...
I think that they probably, for the most part, obviously probably don't mind the gimmicks that much.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just get stuck into it. Yeah. I know that Val Venus got his dick cut off in a storyline.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking of. The Ho Train, they had to do the Ho Train every night.
And he would come out and be like, can't we just get along? And all the girls would come out and everyone would be dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. He seemed like the biggest Mac.
Yeah.
Val Venus never sleeps alone. no matter what.
Yeah.
But he had long hair back then.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
exactly.
he was
And he would do
crewed down.
promos with like Jenna Jameson.
Oh, nice.
And he'd say stuff like, when you see the length of my silencer, I'll leave you speechless. Yeah, so that was like very attitude era shit. Mm-hmm. And then that's what was so clever about this right to censor gimmick.
Yeah.
You know?
They took really a lot of the people that were like the hypersexualized.
And Steven Richard was definitely there. I think he must have tried to jump in at one point. But like Bull Buchanan, like these are all big boys. Mm-hmm. This was like a match, even except for Taz is a small guy. Yeah. But Rowdy, he's like a little pit bull. Yeah. But everyone else was just big fucking men. Mm-hmm. And it ended with Godfather trying to get the Ho Train in, but missed it. And then
there was a lot of confusion.
Bradshaw comes out with the clothesline. And like that's a pretty, and some people would sell it, do flips and stuff like that. Yeah. But when you see someone no sell it, like the Godfather did, like and just fell down. Yeah. It's like, how is a clothesline? How is a big boot? How is that a finisher?
The that's like exactly like.
I guess.
It's like Steven Richards when I was thinking like the leg drop. Remember Hulk Hogan had the leg drop. Yeah. And like the last ride power bomb, that or like the jackknife power bomb with Diesel, like those were
right
like
in the back of the neck.
Yeah, the pile driver was the straight down, like a no wires magic trick of smashing someone's head first into the ground. But yeah, there was some silly ones, which like I don't know if I would have been knocked out by that.
Well, my buddy Mark, who like fucking someone broke a disc in his back or something. I remember I was in like grade 6 and someone gave him a move out on the field, and like his brother Nick is closer to my age, and I remember like being around Nick when it's like, your brother just broke his neck. And like I've seen people, get really fucked up by wrestling moves, and that's why they started doing the "Don't Try It at Home" campaigns and all this kind of stuff.
It's fun to wrestle.
Yeah, but there was a lot of just like big moves, and this was. I think now wrestling's more like athletic, and everyone's more like the Chris Jericho's and Eddie Guerrero's and the people that can do all the moves kind of thing.
All natch.
Yeah, but there's got to always be the big boys, right? And, this match was just full of it, full of that action.
Yeah, it got really confusing towards the end, that one. And
yeah, because it wasn't like really...
Like, I couldn't even remember if this Bull Buchanan guy even fought. When like, oh yeah, he's there.
But he, out of this whole match, is the guy that never really... Like, at one point, he was a homie with John Cena, I'm pretty sure. Like, while John Cena was doing that whole rapper kind of thing, for some reason, Bull Buchanan was like his, hype man. Like, Bull Buchanan never... He was just a jobber, a big man jobber.
No, well, he thought he could help with censorship.
Big man jobber.
But yeah, there was a clothesline from hell was what closed it down.
Bradshaw. But Bradshaw was like a fucking meanie. He's like notoriously a fucking bully behind the scenes.
I can see that. He's a giant guy. Looks like he could have some attitude. Maybe you don't want to wake him up if you see him sleeping somewhere.
He's a son of a bitch. As they'd probably call him in Texas. I'm pretty sure that's where he's from.
But he was around for a long time.
Yeah.
Be interesting. It's not a guy whose personal life I think about too often. Tombstone? Was that the name of?
Oh yeah, we just looked this up. No, it was.
Because I get them confused with the Smoking Guns, Bart and Billy.
Yeah,
Billy before he went
no,
full
we just looked it up. It
gigolo.
was like the Blackjacks or something.
Oh yeah, that's right, the Blackjacks, the Tombstones.
And I remember he actually started being like JBL, and he kind of had like this weird Trump kind of character going on.
Oh yeah, mega.
Where he's like John Bradshaw Layfield, and he's like, it's really
Getting
weird,
patriotic in a way.
But a lot of history with him is not only did he like beat the fuck out of the Blue Meanie in like this battle royal thing. That's documented.
You said in real life or something.
Bradshaw is the reason that they had that crazy brawl for all shit, where wrestlers actually started boxing.
I think I did. Bart Gunn won that. Yeah. Spoiler
but
alert!
Then got fucked up by Butterbean.
Yeah, that's right, because he still sucked at boxing.
And he just ruined that Dr. Doom guy's career, or Dr. Death, Stephen Williams. Oh. He was supposed to be the next big thing, but Bart Gunn, like, fucked him up so he couldn't wrestle anymore.
Oh my goodness.
And that's Attitude Era, baby. So that match goes to Bradshaw, Farouk, and Taz.
Yeah, on their way to it.
Farouk also was in like Nation of Domination. Was probably the next like closest thing to him being in like a big storyline.
Yeah, this does lose a point for not having like an Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah,
remember him?
Yeah,
I don't think he gets talked about too much these days.
No, but he was,
he got a push for a while.
He was in WWF. Attitude, I think, was the game that I used to play.
Yeah, he was an ass kicker.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Rest in peace. I think he's passed away.
Is he?
Is this the person? I'm sure he is. I don't know, because there's a lot of people that were going to be saying that about.
Yeah.
In this match, everyone so far still alive, but then we get to the next match.
Rest in peace, Raven. Nevermore.
No. Raven's still kicking. Scott Levy. And
I'm just kidding. He's doing well as with
very
podcasting.
Interesting. I love like the whole history of Raven. Like his whole career is very interesting. But he used to be like Scotty Flamingo and Scotty the Body.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think now? Like he used to be jacked, but it's hard to tell because he has like the grungy, baggy clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's so disappointing that you get to rarely see him topless.
Hey, that's wrestling, baby.
Yeah.
No,
he didn't want to show off all his bits.
But because of, like, if you see him now, you can tell that he's definitely done a lot of fucking drugs. And, when in WWF, he never did anything big.
Yeah.
And I think it was because of probably what he was into at that time.
Yeah, seeing him...
So, like, it's hard to tell if he's not, like, not taking care of himself, like a lot of wrestlers ended up doing, right? Mm-hmm. But... he is against, so it's him.
Yeah, and a triple threat hardcore match with some hefty competitors.
Some hefty, big hitters. I think they weigh Big Show in at like 500 pounds is what they say that he is.
Yeah, just the left side of his body.
Yeah,
that's the only side that would fit on the scale. His other had to remain on the floor.
And Kane, who like actually was one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yeah. If you like the Halloween series, you may want to have tuned in to some late 90s, early 2000s wrestling.
What are you talking about?
Mike Myers. He had like kind of...
Yeah, I know, but I never liked Mike Myers, actually.
He was like the slasher killer of
wrestling.
Like I think the Mandela effect of Kane is that he could have had a knife, and if someone told you that he walked around with a knife, you'd be like, I remember that.
At one point, I think he shot fireballs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
But Kane is someone who probably should have had at least more of a title run. I think he won the title and then lost it the next day. They just took it back from he won it at a pay-per-view, and then on Monday Night Raw he took it back.
Is he from parts unknown, or is he from hell?
Yeah, I don't know. They definitely would have said parts unknown or something like that. But this was a wild match. The triple threat, hardcore.
Mm-hmm. This is an example.
Didn't stay in the ring very long.
It was pretty long, I think.
Yeah.
Overall, but unlike that new one that we watched in the cemetery and all that, where it overstuck its welcome, somehow the longevity of this one just added to. And the one camera, kinda. Did it start in the ring or backstage? No, it was in the ring. I remember Raven bouncing up against the ropes and stuff.
Yeah, it started in the ring. But very
didn't stay there long.
Yeah. No, very quickly went to the backstage. Everything that was set dressing in
things deteriorated and things
APA
erupted.
Locker room. I guess that's what they call a locker room, the poker room. These guys didn't pull any stops, throwing each other onto pallets. I'm pretty sure there was a Raven-sized hole in a wall. They're throwing each other through windows, through doors, and
you were thinking because I do a bunch of setups for events and stuff at the Scotia
we were
Bank.
Thinking about it filming.
I was
thinking about this as a set. Because they're not actually doing this in the stadium.
They're not smashing every window in the back of Houston. yeah. They're like the Astros or whatever. Fuck is Houston?
Astrodome is what it is. And then Undertaker is from Houston and Stone Cold's from Houston.
How many windows did people get? It was amazing. They kept finding things to smash through. And for 10, 15 minutes. And then they whip out with golf carts. And you remember that? There was somebody riding a golf cart.
At one point,
all these unsanctioned.
I think Raven started choking Big Show with a hose.
Yeah.
But then Kane got it and started choking him with a hose, and then there was the golf carts, and there's that whole story of how Raven ran into this cord, and that
one line of feeder that
would have took out the whole power. So that's pretty funny in itself. But yeah, again, Raven is one of those guys that could have hang in there with these two big boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And keep it interesting. It was playing that, letting them beat the shit out of each other and coming back and then getting his ass kicked and running away.
Looking for opportunities.
Yeah. And then, it comes down to Big Show is picking Raven up. And then Kane with this big boot that wasn't necessarily a violent looking kick, but just a nudge, enough to push them into the
nice nudging kick,
that kind of pool. It was really weird what they fell into.
Yeah,
but then
that was right off the stage. That weird square thing.
Yeah, it looks like a pool full of
smoke.
Yeah, something you kind of see through it. But then Kane did a flying elbow or something like that. I think they might have called it a leg drop, but it didn't look like one. But it was enough for Kane to win the title. But I even think Kane probably lost it the next week, even the hardcore championship.
7 hours before they had the fight again. Next night on Raw.
Yeah. Yeah, then the 24/7 era. That's when actually I stopped watching wrestling
Yeah. Why did I
Because when they
pay
took
to watch last night just to have it changed for free?
But they took away the hardcore championship.
Yeah.
That's when I stopped watching wrestling. Because I loved that shit.
Good
That was
way
the
of
fucking best
protesting.
part. No, straight up. That's like when I was like, enough of this. I don't enjoy it. Because that was my favorite part of it.
Yeah. Enjoy your banana hammocks, rest of the world.
Yeah. But that, for me, was like, at that time, loving Raven, loving the Kane. Not really liking the Big Show, but that was a big match.
Yeah.
And
A lot of bigs.
yeah, and it ends up getting more hardcore as you go with this WrestleMania 17.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? That was a rootin' tootin' kind of.
Mm.
And just to amplify the cheating, and well, I mean, it wasn't cheating in that instant. But the more I think about it, I was like, there's probably cheating in 40 to 60% of fights. And
yeah, because it was surprising how much no disqualification stuff is happening after this match.
yeah.
It's like almost every match.
Yeah. And it's so funny how you can't hear commentary live. So because, you know, the refs would know what's going on and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They just wouldn't be able to get away with as much. It's almost like an atmosphere that sort of promotes the idea of cheating in a way. I mean, it probably changed, as you were saying, when it became just a swimsuit contest instead of a hardcore championship. Whatever you were talking about just before. It was bought by Sports Illustrated, I think.
Oh, yeah. I remember the bra and panties matches and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. As a kid, you'd be like, gonna see some real nudity in wrestling tonight. I better just prepare my brain to take a mental snapshot.
And find another channel that you can press last channel right quick.
Yeah.
Skip away in case.
Tonight's gonna be puppies night. It's gonna be some escapades.
So what match did we roll into next?
Oh, after the big leg drop, now we got into, like, we were already spitballing and throwing out every wrestling name we could think of at the time, and then bam, we got the European Championship, which I kind of remember when that got implemented.
And I feel like I should have brought up that another thing is like when I stopped watching wrestling was when I remember Kane losing his mask.
You saw that?
And then all of a sudden being like bald Kane.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I stopped watching wrestling too, because it was kind of weird.
It's when I stopped watching Star Wars as well.
Because he was supposed to be burnt and stuff like that, and he was burnt for like when his mask came off, and then all of a sudden he was just like bald.
Yeah, what are they gonna do? Prosthetics every night? They lied.
Yeah,
sons of bitches. What else did they
like
lie
Santa's
about?
Not real. That was like Santa's not real to me.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
What?
If any kids are watching, that's a spoiler.
No, well, you know, keep your ears shut. That's what I say if you're listening to our podcast. Or whatever format this comes out in. Yeah, so the European Championship, which I wish I had so much more to talk about the European Championship. I just remember it is such a prestigiously unimportant. It's like the cruiserweight or it's an intercontinental light. I don't know.
Because intercontinental, there was a light heavyweight title at this point too. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, nice.
Or maybe just before this. I remember that.
But Test
and the European stayed around for a while, and you had Test, rest in peace.
Eddie Guerrero,
rest in peace, and accompanied by Perry Saturn, who I always thought was the full package.
Probably.
It's funny talking about wrestlers.
Probably 8 out of 10 people would agree with that statement.
Like he was a big boy, but he could do the acrobatic shit too.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, but he was just clearly like probably into some heavy shit.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause
He
he
always
was-
had that Tasmanian devil look.
Yeah, exactly.
Much, just like Taz kind of
Yeah.
did.
But it always gets shitty ass gimmicks.
Was he?
Never could get a push.
I'm just trying to think of. Like,
He was a jobber.
but what was some of his mannerisms? Was he like I'm a madman or something? In
No,
WCW.
no, he was kind of like
Can't remember.
gimmicky. Like I think when he would do something crazy before he
make crazy
Yeah,
eyes or
exactly,
something
yeah,
like that, right?
exactly, yeah.
I'm not trying to be ignorant toward
You need to
Perry
have, like,
Saturn and
a gold or bleach blonde, like almost like a Hulk Hogan stash with a mohawk. And yeah, he'd just be like a parody guy. Like at one point, he was in love with a mop or something like that.
That's pretty bananas. I think that's what I mean. Like I kind of
Almost
remember.
like an Al Snow with head.
Oh, that's a good way to do it. Rings of Saturn.
Yeah.
Was that? I can't remember what
It was
type
a crazy kind of like suplex. Like you'd
Mm.
twist them up and throw them backwards.
Yeah, it was a good move.
Yeah. But I feel like he'd do something pretty cool from the turnbuckle too, jumping down on them.
Mm-hmm. Some
But
wild man.
I always enjoyed watching
Yeah.
Perry Set, and he was part of the Flock too. He
That's
was
right,
actually a
yeah.
big part of WCW Flock.
He was a little
storylines.
later in the flock, I think. He got
But he was-
adopted
yeah, but
later
he was
on
the
by
first
Daddy
to
Ray.
defect, I think.
What?
He was the first to defect from the Flock.
Oh,
And
maybe
it was, like,
that's
him
what it
against Raven and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it was great.
Lodi.
Yeah, Lodi and
Sick Boy.
Billy Kidman.
Sick Boy, was he one of them?
They were a big part of my memory of WCW Revenge.
Oh, yeah. Hit L a couple times and you get to a grouping.
Yeah.
The entire grouping. People you didn't even know were in the flock.
And like with N.W.O. and like WCW, well, I guess all WWF, they're all about stables. They're all about these big groups.
Mm-hmm.
And another group of 4 that came to WWF were the Radicals. And 2 of them are in this match. One of them is in a match later. One of them shows up in this match. But the Radicals were Eddie Guerrero,
Yeah.
Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko,
Mm-hmm.
the Men of 1,000 Holds, and Chris Benoit, the Rabid Wolverine.
Yeah. Dean Malenko is like the Dave Matthews kind of W.
Boring.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of, like we said, Steven Regal, kind of grappling old school wrestling, but
Seemed a little too short to be like
No
a real
charisma.
contender. Like you
didn't
know, pretty plain
couldn't
Jane.
put him in a storyline.
Yeah, blue underwear or something. Lightning bolt maybe or something. Or just Malenko maybe.
Malenko, yeah. I feel like he'd do something like this.
From his years of training.
But Eddie Guerrero is always been very entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always fun to see him go at it. And Test was very underutilized. Like he was the one who was supposed to marry Stephanie McMahon, but then Triple H got married to her while she was passed out.
Yeah.
And since then, Test never got a shot at like the title.
Nothing.
Or, he battled some demons and had an untimely death.
Yeah, that's right.
But he was a big boy.
Yeah,
He was one of those guys that, like I said, his finisher was the big boot. It's like you can do better than that. Like later on, he got the test drive, which was a pretty cool move.
The test drive?
Yeah, he'd have you from behind, like almost like a reverse DDT, but he'd do this like thing where he'd twist you right around and drop you.
Really wrench
So
the
that was
old
pretty
neck.
cool. Yeah, cut his hair short.
Yeah, I remember that.
But
Followed suit with
Eddie
Chad Kroger.
Eddie Guerrero's a fucking legend.
Mm-hmm. Always rocking that mullet kind
Yeah.
of thing. The
Yeah.
short in the front for sure.
Yeah, and I think this is probably after the China storyline.
Oh yeah, and that's right.
Where
He
they
went
were
out with
together
China
there.
for quite a while.
Yeah, or maybe before it. I'm not sure, but
Chavo.
yeah, Chavo. Yeah, but he went on to win the championship and actually, got some flowers for all the work that he's put in before his untimely death as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought this match for like one of those filler matches almost, because like you said, the European Championship, it was just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys can put on a show, so I think it actually did hold up as a filler match for WrestleMania 17 compared to everything else that's to come.
Yeah. I feel like I used to see him. Did he ever fight with Bob Holly?
Probably.
Remember Bob
Hardcore Holly, yeah.
But before he had like a
Yeah,
racing
Sparkplug.
motif. Sparkplug, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sparkplug Bob Holly or something. Sparky.
Yeah, I remember when he was first starting out in wrestling.
And then Crash Holly, and then Molly Holly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a whole family. So this was also, so early on, I guess it was always Eddie Guerrero's thing to kind of steal a win.
yeah.
And maybe this is like
No
going back to
exception.
the Radical days. Because Dean, and not only is Perry Saturn there, and he comes in and pulled off the Rings of Saturn.
Yeah.
And then Dean
I think I
Malenko.
missed that somehow.
And then Dean Malenko runs down and tries to get in, but like kind of misses a spot. And it's kind of like one of those, you can see the strings of the choreography. And like he comes in, and I don't know what happens. I think he gets the big boot or something like that, but then Eddie Guerrero hits him with the title and gets the championship.
That's right. Another cheated win.
Well, the ref's not.
Yeah.
Well, the ref's not looking.
The ref wasn't looking.
Yeah, and there was some like fuckery with the reffing.
There was
as
a
we
lot
go
of
on.
yeah. During this whole event, the reffing, like bad Yelp review, I guess.
Yeah. So what was so going after that? So Latino Heat walks away with the European Championship.
Yeah. And then right into the middle, and Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit.
Oh, so the Radicals continue.
Yeah.
And this match was, very entertaining. These guys, the back and forth, Eddie Guerrero's death actually played a part in, like the Chris Benoit Dark Side of the Ring.
No, he's a
episodes.
huge part of it.
Yeah.
And really, like, in a kind of like Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington sort
Yeah.
of way. Like, he
Yeah,
was,
exactly.
like, deeply affected.
Yeah.
And I don't...
It's crazy that, like, the dark side of wrestling is, like, true. Like, all this kind of behind-the-scenes stuff. Like, already halfway through, we're talking about all these people that, when, there's so many dark things behind the scenes with the drugs and with the, like, a lot of suicides and a lot of mental health and...
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We get spared so much of that when we were young because none of it occurred yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they had, like... I remember one time Ric Flair had, like, a heart attack. And, like...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if... Like, it seemed pretty real
Yeah.
at the time. I don't know even now if it was
Real or not.
real or fake, but
Yeah.
there was a couple instances where people had like really extreme issues like that.
Like, I think there's a couple Brian Pillman things that were like, is he actually doing this? Or?
Yeah, this Kurt Cobain sort of attitude,
Yeah.
and then also like the no showiness
Yeah.
or absenteeism to go along with it.
Yeah.
But then we read that he had like heart failure or something, like not drug related. It didn't seem. I don't know. I guess I have to look into
There
it.
is a dark side of the ring about him in the newest season, actually. Like, it's already. I've seen it. And it was like a heart failure thing, yeah. Yeah, so moving along. Oh, so Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
And Kurt Angle, you know what I mean? He's had some dark days too, but both of them are just fucking athletes, tactical. Like, I guess they would be considered like the old school traditional grappling wrestling, but you know, these are the guys that make it entertaining. And it was back and forth the whole time.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kept
Kurt,
you so engaged.
Kurt, did he hit the 2 buttons or whatever on his special and do his move to him?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They both did. They both took turns, like trying to get their submission in, but the other person would counter, and then finally they got their submissions in, and then they were always getting to the ropes, and then they put each other's submissions on themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like again, fuckery with the refs. Like the ref wouldn't see it, or
Yeah. Was there like throwing in the
I don't know if
stairs?
there
Is
was
that
any.
that one? I remember the whole time there was a couple things. I don't know if did they go through the tables and stuff, the broadcast ones. Who were doing that?
No, that didn't come into play yet.
No.
No.
But anyway, I was just looking for signs of like things that could have been too much in that match for some reason.
Yeah.
But if this was nothing compared to some of these matches.
No, it was all about just the wrestling back and forth, showing the athleticism. Chris Benoit did hit the diving headbutt, which notoriously anyone who did the diving headbutt
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
did not fare well. And then like a weird ending for a match with two guys that have submissions. It was just him hitting the angle slam or whatever and getting the 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah.
But there was like I think Kurt Angle was tapping to the crippler crossface, but the ref didn't see it.
Oh yeah, and one of those things I remember when they used
like
to pin them and they would be
cheater.
like pitting them for like a minute.
Yeah, and they really like. Kurt Angle must have been a good sport about that because everyone hated him. The fucking "you suck" chants and shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It was easy to hate that guy, and he just ate it up.
Mm-hmm.
So he was definitely and like it's weird because I don't remember Chris Benoit ever having like a chance at the championship or anything like that. So like, are they trying to play him as a baby face there? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Maybe they're actually like testing the waters. Who out of these guys could move ahead? How like we were talking about Chris Jericho did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that was very entertaining, and even like I think there was behind the scenes, Kurt Angle doing like a little interview, and then Chris Benoit coming and putting him in the crippler again and making him tap again backstage. So like keep going on with like there was a lot of backstage stuff going on in this Astrodome.
Mm-hmm. Pulling out all the stops.
It'd be so funny if you found out that it was like Seinfeld, where this was actually all filmed in studio, all the backstage stuff.
I kind of thought like about that kind of thing, but they would have had, I guess, people in there for like a bunch of days building up these like little prop walls and windows to smash through.
Yeah, exactly.
Really dolling up the backstage, like drawing it all up in little blueprints and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Moving forward, it starts getting really interesting. Because is it the gimmick match?
The next one was the China one.
Oh yeah, China and Ivory.
Ivory, yeah.
I think that was like a very one-sided quick match.
Yeah, I know. Like,
Seemed to go super quick. I
what
think.
was Ivory even doing? What
Yeah.
was she thinking going up
She
against?
looks like an Amish lady. She's part of the right to censor that we were talking about earlier. China just seemed to wash the floor with her.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was
And
probably some lead up for a couple
Yeah.
of weeks to this fight.
And this is. I don't know if Triple H and Stephanie are together at this point. Must be. But, this is definitely after the Triple H in China. So it's fun.
Whirlwind
it's
romance.
She's getting a push, getting the championship belt, but then, like, gets fired quickly after. Like, there's a lot of fucking politics there.
Yeah.
With that love triangle. But, she came out with Wrestlemania. She's got, like, the rocket launcher or something like that, and quite a spectacle for the ninth wonder of the world. There, China.
Like King Kong?
Yeah.
Or...
That's what they call her. The ninth wonder of the world.
Yeah, but was King Kong the 9th or 8th or 7th or...
Probably the 8th. I can see China being bigger than King Kong.
But yeah, handed Ivory her own butt.
She had a dark, like, I think there's actually a documentary I watched about China, and I think that's why Dark Side of the Ring opted out about doing an episode on her, because they already knew something was in the works.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she had a dark life after wrestling as well.
Oh, definitely.
And like tried to make a comeback, but just couldn't. And another person.
No, it's just too much of
stuff like that.
Move like a Frankenstein. Like she's slow after a while.
Yeah.
But not during this. She was in her prime.
She was
absolute prime. She kicked the crap out of that person. Just
she
gave her like
jaw.
that. What? Oh yeah, that's right.
Jaw reconstructed.
Mm-hmm. Went from Danzig to something more acceptable.
But that was probably at her peak.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it lasted too much longer after that.
No, I think our description of it lasted longer than the fight.
Yeah, in real time. So now the gimmick match.
The street fight. The 7th match. The street fight with Shane McMahon.
Oh yeah, and Vince.
With Mick Foley.
Yeah. Which is funny because they call it a street match, but I think this one stayed in the ring for the most part, or around the ring. But this was when you were talking about the table goes down.
No, I was just realizing that.
And this is a huge storyline of Trish Stratus involved with Vince McMahon and Linda having a
she's like
coma, like she's in wheelchair and stuff like that, and
things were getting really weird
Shane
at this
McMahon
point.
Bought WCW, and Stephanie's like daddy's little girl kind of thing.
Paris Hilton.
Yeah, so it's like this, privileged kid on the surface, privileged kid going after his dad, snaked him for money, blaming how he treats the mother and stuff like that. But I turned you on to seeing how much fucking shit Shane O'Mac puts himself through.
Like, what an overcompensation.
Yeah.
To do the stuff that he's done.
He's not just a good dancer.
This guy's highlight reel is up there.
Ridiculous, like New Jack level.
Yeah, it far exceeds. It's like a Mankind.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it probably came across as, I'm the son of the boss, so I gotta prove to the fellas that I'm willing to do this too.
How's he holding up now? Is he like...
I think he still does that stuff. Like when he comes back, he at least does that coast to coast move every time.
I couldn't even believe anybody could do this coast to coast. I don't
Yeah,
ever
I remember you being so skeptical as he got up on the turnbuckle and be like, "You're never gonna be able
Yeah,
to
I
do
just
that."
thought he was gonna like crash and burn like an idiot.
Yeah.
And
And he even jumps onto the announcer table, but Stephanie pulls Vince off,
the old miss.
and like he's wild, man. And there's even stories of him partying with all the.
Like, how do you unwind after doing this kind of stuff? This is like, I can't believe he has the genes to basically be the guy who falls on tacks. You know what I mean? The guy's a G.
Yeah, no, he's definitely earned his stripes.
And it was just vicious and weird, this match. Like, the whole mom thing and the coma and like making out with Trish in front of him and then getting
but then
beat.
Trish slapped him.
Yeah.
And then her and Stephanie get into it. But then he takes the mother into the ring and makes her sit down.
Yeah.
And then remember Shane's going like this. And he turns around and Linda gives him the kick. And there's even like Mick Foley, who we met.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he came to Halifax, Spryfield to be exact. Adam's hometown. He was the special guest referee.
Mm-hmm.
And Sacco might have came out, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But this was, a lot of storyline, so it was quite the spectacle of seeing everything all the time. There's Sacco there, even Phyllis has Sacco. We framed you out, Phyllis, come on.
Yeah, but maybe that
You
made
had
it
your
in.
time. But, yeah, so I think that was eye-opening for you, seeing a little Shane O'Mac. And, it just really plays into what's to come, because this moving forward turns into the invasion angle. And I think it's like the next pay-per-view that Booker T does a interruption in a match, and it kind of starts doing that angle right after this WrestleMania.
Yeah. Yeah, so unlike the China one, like I feel like barely scratched the surface somehow of that match. Like that was like definitely a wild one.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like hilarious, weird, very unexpected, really pushed the limits beyond. And I think it was really at this point where things really started to pick up with the whole event.
Yeah.
And like some of the stuff to come.
Yeah, like it was definitely like we were talking about with Eddie Guerrero and Test being a filler match and being an interesting one. China and Ivory was seemed very quick and like lackluster, very one-sided, not very memorable. I remember China getting the pin in like a cocky fashion, but not the best.
Very well balanced. Like it did have a lot of hardcore stuff, but it's like ramping up the whole time.
Yeah,
hits a real fever pitch in this one.
Yeah, the and Vince McMahon can hold his own.
Oh yeah,
like he'll take a beating. He can, it's
the way he gets so muscular at some point.
Yeah,
and the match after this like keeps going with the hardcore.
that was a huge highlight, that match, and then moving forward to the TLC.
Yeah, right into another like hardcore situation.
Yeah.
With the tables, ladders, and chairs with the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and Dudley Boys. Like they do it big on this one.
So all three, like very happening tag teams at this time. I don't think this is the first triple tag team that these guys have had. But, these are some of the best matches in that hardcore era of, these guys were the kings of using these kind of weapons. Like, you had the Hardys that were high flyers, you had the table obsessed Dudleys.
Oh yeah, it was.
Edge and Christian did some crazy shit with chairs. They were like the concertos or whatever.
Yeah, there was some pretty punny names for some of these things. I think some of the more impressive stuff was the ladder theatrics, going from ladder to ladder, and all these like it's stupid to say like dangerous seeming, but like on a step ladder, you can mess up doing that stuff.
Yeah, and Jeff Hardy's like insane with it, doing like the front flips onto two chairs. Because that was the funny thing is that, they all had interference. For some reason, Rhino is with Edge and Christian, but like Lita comes in for Matt Hardy and Jeff, and then little Spike Dudley's there. So it's just going like it's mayhem.
All the riffraff.
Jeff Hardy does a move, somersault onto Rhino and Spike Dudley onto tables, but like misses Rhino completely and hits
crushes
Spike Dudley, and then Rhino comes down on top of him too.
That probably ended Spike Dudley's career.
Oh, it killed him. It must have.
We had to go
Jeff
back
Hardy
and look
just
at
gets
that
back
moment.
up and keeps going. And there was that setup of 4 tables that, it was just mayhem. But the coolest spot was Jeff Hardy hanging off the titles and Edge doing the spear.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So, it goes to show, like, this WrestleMania, like, was just nonstop.
Maximum entertainment. So far.
Yeah, high energy to the max, like you said. It was funny. I don't remember seeing Matt Hardy that much during the match. I feel like everyone else kind of like showed a bit of face.
Right.
But it seemed like, I don't know, like sometimes that happens, like, with an injury or something. Can't get into it or something like that. Or because he went through the 4 tables with Bubba. So, like, you don't know if, like,
if he
very
had
likely
to take a little
he had
time
a little bit of an injury. Yeah, exactly. But,
this is a match where that would happen.
Yeah, exactly, because, wrestling, it is storylines, and the punches are fake, but you're not faking falling out of the ring from a ladder into a bunch of tables onto the floor.
Yeah, I don't know if it's more like or less like a magician, like where the most painful trick is the easiest to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But these guys take their fucking lumps, and they're all, athletes. And, definitely masters of the craft, especially when it comes to this. And talking about these 6 guys.
Yeah, like, say whatever you want about their personal lives or whatever, but they were at the apex of all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think they even, like, wrestle... like a pay-per-view, a WWE pay-per-view is called Tables, Ladders, and Chairs now because of these guys.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it was almost like a invention of the Hell in the Cell over again.
Yeah. I don't think there's any Hells in the Cells in this one.
No, but there is a pay-per-view called Hell in the Cell where there's like 4 Hell in the Cell matches now instead of just having one every couple of years.
Oh,
they'll have like a pay-per-view of it and stuff like that.
Lifting it up and dropping it down dramatically.
Edge and Christian got the win off of this. I think they won on both of the TLC matches.
Yeah.
Because this was the second one.
Yeah, 2 belts hanging in this one.
But, you know, Edge later on got it. Later on, got a push. But that was, you know, I wasn't watching wrestling at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know much of what happened to Christian. Yeah, exactly.
Reminded me of the, you ever watch Beast Wars?
But he just did the spear. And I was so over the spear.
You ever watch Beast Wars as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
There was like this...
Transformers?
Yeah, they were like, but animals.
Yeah.
And one of them was like an ant or something that keeps like bouncing back and forth. Good guy, bad guy.
Yeah.
Kind of had a look like
Started out as a bad guy.
Yeah.
That was kind of an informant for a couple episodes. Had an alliance.
I can't remember what he sounds like, but I remember him kind of looking like Edge.
Yeah.
Jamie, pull that up.
Jamie. Yeah, almost like a Jim Carrey Grinchy face. And then moving forward to the gobbledygooker. The most exciting part of the whole WrestleMania 17.
I couldn't. What an unbelievable treat.
Yeah.
It's like getting a Christmas present you couldn't imagine getting or something on top of getting some stuff that you already wanted.
Yeah.
You know? What a great surprise gift.
I agree.
From the WrestleMania gods, this gimmick. Yeah. I don't even want to call it a gimmick. I want it to be real.
Yeah, exactly.
This Royal Rumble.
Yeah, because it gives a little honor to what wrestling came from, because these were all golden era wrestlers.
It's like an homage, but live.
There's a couple guys that I've never heard of. There's like Dumpster Dan or something weird. But, they had the Sheik.
Earthquake.
They had Earthquake. They had Sergeant Slaughter, Sergeant Slaughter probably was more prominent in the later years. He was always like a backstage kind of guy, or one of the first guys with like Gerald Briscoe that they'd always bring back, even though they were old.
I would always think of him and like Big Boss Man and all the other
Big Boss Man had a crazy couple storylines.
Police officer.
With Al Snow and Undertaker.
But this one had, I wish I had a list right in front of me, but it had...
Jamie?
Oh, will it show me? I'm going to ask...
the Bushwhackers, who we also met.
Oh, yeah, which was...
Met Bushwhacker.
This doesn't help. Man,
he also came to Halifax.
What?
The Bushwhacker.
Yeah, we have a picture you can throw up here, Jamie. But we got to meet a Bushwhacker, and he looked pretty well the same.
Yeah, the exact same.
Ageless Bushwhacker. Do you remember which one we met? Butchwhacker.
No, his name... We didn't meet Luke. We met the other one.
Right.
Bushwhacker.
But there was Doink. Like Doink, like ever since like Super Nintendo era wrestling games, like you could use Doink in one of them.
Yeah.
And like you would never barely ever see him live.
Yeah.
But you would see him like every couple of years, or I don't even know. Time is
because wrestling was all about the kids back then.
Mm-hmm.
With the golden era, it was always like kids. They were always on the marketing, like eat your vitamins, Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened with the Attitude Era, is that it started getting a little R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, it was very marketable to have this clown character.
Yeah.
Evil clown. Because kids can relate to having this evil clown, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I remember him being in some of the earliest games.
Yeah.
For sure.
And there was just like Earthquake that we mentioned. Like him and Atom Bomb or something. Like we're almost like mythological as like earlier people, but like we're never around when I watched it. Like they weren't regulars or anything. So I was surprised as heck.
Yeah, a lot of jobbers.
To see them come out for WrestleMania like that, so many of them. Like I don't know how many of these dudes were in this match, but this was like the highlight, one of them, like right out of nowhere, a huge highlight like that. And
Brother Love.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Michael P.S. Hayes was in it. Jim Cornette, probably the most hated man in wrestling history, other than Vince Russo. Duke the Dumpster.
Duke the Dumpster.
Hillbilly Jim.
Yep.
The Gobbledygooker, who actually was played by
I thought I was just
Eddie Guerrero's father.
That's
the legend, Hector Guerrero.
I thought I was living in a simulation when the Gobbledygooker came out.
Yeah, you didn't know. I actually knew about that. That's funny. And this is him right here. Look, the bushwhacker that we met. Yeah, Butch Bushwhacker, and Luke. So they were both
nice enough guy.
Kim Chi.
Yeah.
The fucking Brooklyn Brawler. I don't
the
remember
food has
him.
become much more popular.
I don't remember
than
him
the
actually being in it. I remember the Brooklyn Brawler. I don't remember him being in this.
I remember Kimchi.
The Repo Man.
Yeah, Repo.
And One Man Gang.
One Man Gang.
Probably the best name in wrestling.
Got a weird one.
Yeah. One Man
But
Gang.
it's a hilarious name.
Yeah.
But it sounds
and
like
it was just, so stupid it worked.
Yeah, but it makes you sound like you're punching down the whole time.
Mm. But, it was pretty damn entertaining and just, like, lighthearted. Another filler match.
I beat your ass.
Yeah.
Iron Sheik.
Yeah. Oh, because Iron Sheik won.
Yeah.
But then he gets put in the Cobra Clutch by Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the battle of the clutches. Because you don't want Iron Sheik putting you in the Camel Clutch. And I've actually put, the Camel Clutch, I think, is the exact same thing that Scott Steiner would do. The Steiner Buster, or whatever the fuck he called it. With the Camel Clutch from behind.
Yeah, he did have, yeah, it was very much that because he look around.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the Steiners? Do you remember them when they were like a tag team together?
Oh, yeah. And Scott Steiner looked completely different.
Yeah.
Long black hair and stuff like that.
And he had his glow up.
And I remember, no one gave a fuck about Scott Steiner because Rick Steiner was such a nutcase.
Yeah.
And always had the fucking,
earmuffs on.
And he was like a bulldog. Yeah. And I remember there was one episode, he had to eat dog food. Yeah. It was crazy, man. And no one gave a fuck about Scott Steiner until he went bleach blonde and all this kind of shit.
Yeah, and he was like
Big Papa
super Pump. Muscular, all natural and shit.
Really weird, really weird biceps.
Yeah. That's from working out hard.
All natural.
Rather than.
But then does it go to the Triple H and Undertaker match?
Yeah, that is the one that it heads into next. And then, we're waiting for Limp Bizkit to play all show. And then all of a sudden...
Motorhead.
Yeah. Which was awesome.
Brings in Triple H.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, no Limp Bizkit for Undertaker coming in to roll him. Uh,
They were busy that night.
but, two fucking heavyweights of this era.
Mm-hmm.
Triple H has grown out of the DX, and now he's the Game. And it was definitely
Going solo.
Yeah, definitely on.
That kind of depressed me actually at the time when like the band was breaking up because they were such good friends, and when you're at that age, that kind of falling out happens.
Yeah, exactly.
With teenage boys and stuff like that. So I think it just kind of hit different.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And then it just wasn't the same when it was just like Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Suckers.
And like X-Pac was always entertaining, even as I didn't watch him as the 1, 2, 3 kid, but I always liked X-Pac as like a light heavyweight.
Yeah, I thought
he had that title for a little bit.
He's like the young guy, under people's shoulders.
But he was part of the clique.
Yeah. Too sweet.
So Triple H was on a high. Undertaker, legend.
Yeah.
He's in this badass face where he's on the motorbike and stuff like that.
He was beating ass at WrestleManias all through this era, right?
So I think he's on like an 18-0 streak right now.
But I think he lost.
No, it's 17-0 because he wrestled everyone. So 17. Or 16-0 going into this.
Was he? But he wasn't at like the first one.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
He doesn't go back that far, does he?
Since the 80s, yeah.
Holy crap.
But, I could be wrong. But I know he wrestled like 3 decades. This was another match that went into the crowd, and, someone knocked out the ref, and the ref was out for like 11 minutes or something like that while they were, the sledgehammer was in, and, they were just, putting on a show. They were just, obviously the ratings were saying that they want a lot of fucking hardcore shit during this.
Yeah, it was trending towards violence for sure.
Especially if they knew, because they're doing the right to censor angle, so they're already getting called out for their censoring behind the scenes. So they're probably like, let's just put out this all-out war, and we're going to have to phase it out eventually. Because, Triple H was legendary for the sledgehammer, just as much as the Dudleys were for tables and the Hardys were for ladders.
Yeah.
And
and a little bow in his hair.
Yeah, he tried to give him he tried to give him the last ride, but then he hit him with the sledgehammer. And I think that he finally got the last ride on him to get the finisher going. Or to get the pin.
Yeah.
And then Undertaker is 17-0. Gets the 3 count. But that was when they were really transitioning. I think it was because the tombstone wasn't allowed to be done anymore. Or like...
There was a
transition where that's like when he first started doing the last ride.
That's so... Yeah, I forget about all that. Like, what was going... Do you know anything about that, kind of?
No.
But
they still do it. Like, I think he even did... Like, I think Triple H tried to give him a tombstone, and then they did that weird thing where, like, they flipped around, and then Undertaker had him and gave him a tombstone. So, yeah. 2 legends going at it, and I think that if Triple H didn't injure himself later on in the year, he probably would have played a way bigger part in the invasion angle, and Chris Jericho probably wouldn't have got that shot. Like, Triple H probably would have been there where Chris Jericho found his place.
Butterfly effect. Gang.
That's my theory, anyways. But yeah, and then moving on to
the big main event,
big show.
Yeah, and these are really like like their classic big matches at the end, but
this is like this generation's Hulk Hogan and Macho Man.
That's a great point.
You know, the two titans.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about the Mount Rushmores. You know, of wrestling would have to, you know, very well understandably be these two. Especially with their presence, like, and what they stand for. Like, obviously, Stone Cold's gonna be a huge hit with like the demographic of rednecks that watch wrestling.
And you know, the more I think about it, the more like I remember when Rocky Maivia was like pretty well like a Chris Jericho level character, and really like he rose to the absolute top.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever remember Stone Cold like struggling, you know. Like I feel like his rise was super fast.
Yeah.
Like Bret Hart, all that kind of shit.
Well, he was even back as the ringmaster with $1 Million Man starting off.
The Rock?
No, Steve Austin.
Yeah,
the ringmaster.
It's so weird how like you must have seen some of these people sometimes, and then all of a sudden they have like a new persona, and like you're like really invested in them, like.
But then, like, I don't think you can say any wrestler is more successful than The Rock. You know, he's just hit like a whole nother level of celebrity status.
Yeah.
But,
for being such a dick like, all the time back then. Like, he's known as the nicest guy.
But just like the best on the mic, probably ever. And the show that I'm watching now is Young Rock.
That's right.
And, you know,
there's no like young Stone Cold
it's
show.
It's fucking hilarious. Well, they have a young Stone Cold on it. Like, and it's funny. It's pretty funny. They have a lot of... Like, it started off, the casting was amazing, like, with Andre the Giant and, like, Randy Savage and stuff. But then the recent seasons, like, the Stone Cold was good. Because it was, like, Stone Cold with blonde hair, when he was the ringmaster still. But the Undertaker looked like someone wearing an Undertaker Halloween costume. Like, very cheap. The Triple H wasn't very good. Mankind was kind of weird. But, you know, it is what it is.
Muppet babies for wrestling.
They can't pay too much attention to getting the fucking casting right. It's just all this flashback-based sitcom. But I love the show. It is a great watch. And they're on the 3rd season now. And it's just like him getting into the Nation of Domination. But then it plays like him as a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, and then a 30-year-old.
I think I watched one episode.
Yeah. But, and this was probably, I don't know what the runtime was on this match. But these guys, this was their second time going at it together. And it was brutal. Like, I don't think anyone drew blood like these two.
Yeah, what a way to...
the night, even in the TLC match. Yeah.
Created the iconic moment, like I've seen...
always see that picture of Stone Cold while he's in the sharpshooter. Screaming, the blood dripping down his face, and even The Rock with the blood dripping down his face. And,
leaving it all on the mat.
You're only as good as your opponent. And you can just see how well these guys work together. And, you know, they make each other look good. Yeah. And, you know, you hear about wrestlers that have to, like, be, you know, calling the moves as they're going. And then some wrestlers just go with the flow and they just know what's happening, you know what I mean? And they can read the crowd and see what the crowd wants to see. And that's kind of like the psychology of it all. But, you know, these guys are masters of that.
What a great success in, like, putting it into a whole other gear for this one. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the Raw would have been like the next night after something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I was absolutely blown away. Like, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. 1 point, of course, lost for no Ahmed Johnson, but
Yeah. But the only downfall of this match was the ending, because it was Vince McMahon that comes out and helps out Stone Cold, and then again it's like some brutal chair shots, and it looks like The Rock might come back, but then no. Stone Cold is working with Vince McMahon, which is like such an upset, because a huge part of Stone Cold's career is being against Vince McMahon.
yeah. And Steve Blackman was on the undercard, so he could have come out and kicked someone right in the solar plexus, and I could have left a happy man as well.
Yeah, he was underutilized, especially at the end. It was just like in the hardcore kind of division.
Yeah, but just story of his life, not aired.
Yeah, like I remember there being some like disappointing outcomes at some pay-per-views. So I'm sure at the time this was probably quite the outrage of seeing, Steve Austin having a couple Steve Weisers with the man.
Yeah.
Because he was always anti-establishment, fuck the man, fuck the government kind of shit.
Yeah.
But, that makes for good storylines. And I remember this going on and, even went into the invasion angle with them having an alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Sellout? Was that what they were calling him after
Cold
this?
went to the WCW alliance against Stone. He was like, he turned on them at a pay-per-view. And
you can't trust a Texas rattlesnake.
After this, The Rock went and was in a couple movies, so he wasn't around during the invasion angle at the start, and then came back. I think he was in The Rundown or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, but all in all, like, I can see why this is called the greatest WrestleMania.
Yeah. Like in my day, like I can't remember all the fights from the old ones and stuff like that. But a couple that just come to mind from that had the biggest effect on me outside of like this pay-per-view or whatever, was when the Ultimate Warrior came and kicked the shit out of someone at WrestleMania something before that.
He's running down the whole tightrope.
He's just like
as fast as he can.
He's like at a 10 in energy the whole fight. And like I think he fights Hunter Hearst Helmsley and
it's like the Frenchman.
He gets pedigreed. And he gets up like instantaneously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you call that? No soldum or whatever. Yeah. No, it is Triple H.
Yeah. And when I was a huge Shawn Michaels fan, when he fought, was it Bret Hart for an hour or whatever?
Yeah.
That one was
Iron
a pretty
Man match.
Yeah. Yeah, that fight. But I was really excited that it was an hour of wrestling.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I can't even remember. Like, took a long time to.
By the next WrestleMania, N.W.O was back, or N.W.O was in the WWF for the first time, and it was Stone Cold versus Scott Hall, and The Rock versus Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan's still fighting that.
Yeah, and The Rock and Hulk Hogan. Like Hulk Hogan was supposed to be the heel, but everyone was booing The Rock, and everyone was loving Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
in the crowd. So they again, like being able to read the crowd and be able to work with each other, that they completely changed the match. And that's the beauty of wrestling, the art of it. Is that they read the crowd. They could tell the crowd didn't want The Rock to win, so they made it so Hulk Hogan, and then he did like a baby face turn.
Yeah, I think I might have seen a clip from this at some point. Like, it's weird the things that, land on your plate.
Yeah.
So excellent. I would recommend.
Definitely recommend watching WrestleMania 17.
Before it all goes to shit,
Over,
and just
WrestleMania
after it went to
36.
shit.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe quick glance.
Yeah, quick glance at. So, what the fuck's the motivation on the old Breakfast Club being up there?
Well, Emilio Estevez Bordo there.
Yeah.
He's a trained wrestler, Olympic wrestling.
Yeah. I
Probably.
always thought he looked like Owen Hart a little bit.
Yeah, definitely looks like Owen Hart.
Yeah.
And I've always enjoyed Breakfast Club, one of those guilty pleasure movies.
Mm-hmm.
Be like when I'm fucking home from school sick or something like that.
Yeah,
I would put on the Breakfast Club because it was easy to fall asleep to, and something, and there's like no loud noises like a broken arrow. Hard to fall asleep to that.
I think Broken Arrow is a pretty slow burn.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that I saw it mostly on TBS. Probably watched it on like a Sunday or something like that. The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Used to see it quite a bit. Never watched 16 Candles.
Neither have I, or there's another one too.
Pretty in Pink.
Yeah. One of them's the guy from 2.5 Men.
Oh yeah, Cryer.
Yeah.
John
Cryer.
Yeah. I can't believe that guy tried to be a star before 2.5 Men.
Yeah, Molly Ringwald. But Anthony Michael Hall, you see a lot of still.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the Halloween, or was in Halloween Kills.
Oh, that recently.
Yeah.
Go away.
And then was also in...
He must be all grown up by
Freddy
now.
Got Fingered. He was in that too. New one.
That was back when Along Came a Spider was in theaters.
Broken Arrow was your choice.
Yeah,
Guess they got a little wrestle around in this scene.
Well, Broken Arrow... Well, yeah, the tussle. But a Broken Arrow in general is, like, such a fascinating term. Like, I even remember when this came out and being told, like, oh, yeah, this is when somebody steals a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
It's called a Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
But then, after that, I found out that it was meant to be like the equivalent of a country dropping something on its own toe. It was like the mentality somehow behind a Broken Arrow. But yeah, out in the desert, I think parachutes on or something.
Yeah.
They give themselves a good tussling.
I remember really enjoying this when it first came out. And this was like around the same time, the Face Off.
Mm-hmm.
And, John Travolta was kind of...
A lot of adversaries back then.
What other movies did... he also did Phenomenon.
Yeah, Michael.
No, who did Phenomenon?
He was in Phenomenon.
He was Phenomenon. Michael Keaton was in the...
Jack.
No, Multiplicity, or the one where there's a bunch of them. Multiplicity. Came out at the same time. Well after
Angel, City of Angels, something like that. And Michael and all those sort of like kind of wholesome ones.
Yeah.
Powder. Like there was a lot.
He wasn't in Powder.
No. But just it was somewhere in there.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something fucked up happened with Powder. The director, the actor, or something. Something happened there.
The fighter. And you got to give it up to Christian Slater too. Interview with the Vampire, Heathers, which we talk about every once in a while.
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot. He's in the Young Guns, isn't he?
Maybe.
He's in not bad things or
Very bad thing.
very bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just always enjoy him, and every time I see him and stuff. And I know he's in like newer stuff still, but I never watch it.
Yeah, Mr. Robot, I didn't see the whole thing, but he was good in that.
The fighter, Mickey Rourke and Dickie Eklund,
Yeah.
both fought in Nova Scotia. My dad watched them both.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, before this came out and saw the doc on them.
Yeah.
What's it called? Like Too High in Methed Out in Massachusetts, High on something street.
Oh yeah.
Know what I'm talking about?
Because you see it in the movie that he thought that they were making a documentary about his big comeback, but they were actually talking about drug addiction and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to kind of set him up.
Yeah, that's what I saw before any of this. So I was very familiar with the characters before I ever saw this movie.
Yeah.
And that can happen sometimes. You can be like the Iceman Killer, like watching his HBO doc, the 2-part, like 3 hours, and then like Michael Shannon can do the best job.
Yeah.
But compared to this theater of the mind, watching this guy just talk about it,
Yeah.
like a dramatization.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought this was really well done. I think Amy Adams, that was one of her first movies. I think the first movie I saw her in.
Could have been.
And very believable.
Mm-hmm.
Great acting in Wahlberg and Bale. And
that's back when he was Marky Mark, right?
I think this is Christian Bale's method acting of this is he had to drop weight for The Machinist and then gain weight for Batman and then lose weight for this and then gain weight for Batman and like really puts his fucking body through a lot and then gained a bunch of weight for
Vice.
American Hustle.
Oh yeah.
And then
David O. Russell do that with his shooting schedule.
Yeah. Home Alone.
Yeah. Steen, baby.
I love that guy.